Let's play some trivia. Chris, what cigar manufacturer was founded in 1895 and has roots in Cleveland, Ohio?
J.C. Newman.
That is correct. Second question.
Yeah.
Which cigar manufacturer still produces cigars in their 112-year-old factory in Tampa, Florida?
J.C. Newman.
Correct again.
Yep.
All right, last one.
Okay.
Can you go 3 for 3?
Probably.
Who are the creators of the Diamond Crown, Brick House, and the American Cigar?
J.C. Newman.
That is right. Gosh, you know what? They say you look dumb, but you're pretty smart.
Trivia is my thing.
I like it. To explore everything J.C. Newman has to offer and a chance to win a free Diamond Crown whiskey set, visit jcnewman.com/hot ticket. The whiskey set includes 2 Diamond Crown Whiskey Rocks glasses, whiskey rocks, and a set of tongs. All the hardware you need for a perfect drink. Again, enter a chance to win by visiting www.jcnewman.com/hot ticket.
Pulling in stuff.
Sorry.
We've been pulling in stuff that is like relatively small and manageable. You just put it in bags, right? It's like, oh, that's a nice piece of driftwood. Put that in the
plastic bags, like Kroger bags?
No, they were like big old vinyl bags that I had.
Like totes.
That were used to ship memory foam that I used in my Ottoman. These big zip up bags.
Gotcha.
Ow. And so we were doing that, and we've gone up and down this coast and the river several times, and sometimes we're able to get a lot further down the coast of the river because the water might be down. I've passed these 2 big pieces, and every time I see them, I'm like, that'd be a really cool piece, but it's fucking big. And so I decided the other day, I was like, I'm gonna get them pieces. So one of them is probably like 4 feet long, probably about like 6 to 8 inches thick, and it's kind of wavy. It looks like a big thick snake, like a big old anaconda. And that piece probably weighs like 60 pounds. And so I snag it really far up the coast, and I have to bring it back to where we were so we can then make our way up a giant easily a 60-degree hill, back up to the trail, and then take the trail back to my truck. So it's a haul carrying these big pieces of driftwood because I have to carry them through down trees that are on the river. Sometimes we got to go under stuff or over stuff. And so I'm carrying this one, and I take it up to like the point where we got to go up the hill back onto the trail. And then I pass another big piece. And I'm like, that one, I want too. I want that piece. And it's cool as shit. But it's even heavier than the other one. So I'm like lugging this thing around. Kale ahead of me. He's just carrying a bag of fucking sticks. That's how I'm looking at him. I'm like, look at you, fucking baby, carrying this fucking easy bag of sticks while I'm carrying this big ass fucking honking what ostensibly is a stump. I mean, we're talking about like a giant stump of a tree, basically. And so then I get to the part where we got to go up this hill and then take the trail back to the truck. And I got these 2 giant pieces. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to have to fucking carry these things like one at a time. That's stupid. So I decided to carry both of them.
And then, oops, there goes the back.
I managed to do it without feeling like I hurt myself. I had the anaconda one up over my shoulders like I'm doing dips, like a dip bar at a gym. So it's over my shoulders. And then the other one I'm carrying like a tantruming child through a grocery store. So it's kind of like I'm cradling it underneath its belly.
Right.
While the other one's over my shoulders, and Kale, his little ass fucking just carrying sticks while I gotta carry these big ass fucking things. And I get to the truck. I get up a 60-degree hill that's probably 6 to 7 feet tall, back onto the trail, lug these motherfuckers all the way to the truck, put them in there. They're gorgeous, bro. I'm gorgeous. Can't wait to work on them. And but yeah, 2 days after now, I fucked up my back. I fucked it up. I've been going to bed. I can't sleep on my side. I can't sleep on my side. And every time I do, I get this pulsing like, wow, 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 like in my back of pain, of sharp pain. And it's not fun.
Yeah, of course. Back pain's terrible. Now, do we cut out this 5 minutes of the most boring story I've heard in my life?
It depends if anybody likes driftwood.
All right. So to recap,
I'm selling some of it.
To recap quickly.
Yeah.
You've somehow managed to find time to scour the edge of Ohio riverbank for driftwood that you are either yourself going to fashion into arts and crafts and or sell it to other people for arts and crafts. This is a new thing you've taken on. So it started with, let me build a mud hut or a clay hut. What is it? A cob hut, a cob house.
Yeah, it's still on the table.
So let's build a cob house. Oh, now I'm getting into electronics and I'm starting to learn about electricity and I'm doing all this wiring and doing all these things.
Yeah.
Now the new hobby is collect and fashion driftwood from the riverbanks into arts and crafts pieces.
Yeah.
This is the progression you've made in your hobby list over the course of 6 months.
Bro, if I don't have ADHD, I'd be fucking surprised, man. You know what I'm saying?
You are the ADHD king of the world.
Yeah.
You should probably get checked. You are constantly like, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. All of it makes sense. Because you literally will just, all of a sudden you have a new fucking thing. It was hunting frogs for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Now it's collecting driftwood. And so now I think everybody's just curious, like, what's the next thing Chris is going to be doing?
Firearms.
Yeah, well, firearms, yes, they can be a hobby. I don't suspect you're going to make firearms a hobby of yours. I would be shocked and surprised. It's hard to make firearms a hobby when you live in an apartment. You can make firearms a hobby if you live on some land. Otherwise, it becomes a very, very, very expensive hobby.
That's true.
Well,
but
I don't know where to go from here.
But if I collect more original, unique pieces of driftwood, I can sell those pieces for $30 to $100, depending on their sizes. If they're untreated, unfinished.
Is this a Craigslist thing? You're just gonna throw it up on Craigslist?
Putting out an ad, people. If you want driftwood as a piece of art in your home, contact me at hotticketchris on Instagram. I might have a piece that's just perfect for your home. But yeah, but that could pay for my gun hobby.
Why all of a sudden you getting into fucking guns? You're the fucking most ridiculous person on earth. You know that, right?
Well, you walk these riverbanks, and these creeks and these parks.
I love how you say you walk these riverbanks like everybody on earth walks the Ohio riverbanks. Like he's like, well, if you just pay attention enough when you're walking the riverbanks, everybody, you'll see this driftwood. It's
well, I have to admit that when I'm walking these riverbanks, these creeks, and these parks, and I'm in an isolated place where the call for help is going to not be effective, right?
Sure.
I would prefer to carry something that I could use to defend myself other than the switchblade that I managed to find in my old camping trail backpack. You remember that one?
Sure. Yeah.
That Lauren used?
Yeah.
I had a knife in the pocket and I found it the other day. I'm like, oh fuck, I got a knife. So I've been carrying around this knife and I'm just like practicing. I'm like, wah, wah. Like if I get in a tiss with someone on the river, maybe it's a homeless person or a bear, like wah, wah. You got to practice like how you use this knife, right? So I think to myself, yeah, I can use this knife, but I don't feel very safe with a knife. Right. So that's when I was like, I need a firearm on me when I'm at the creek or river. So that way, if a bear or some degenerate homeless person who has dementia, who has managed to wander down into the river and thinks he's a feral human who's going to consume my flesh for sustenance, I need to be able to defend myself.
Given who you are as a person, the most applicable thing that you could probably get to protect yourself would be a rape whistle. I'm not sure a firearm's a good idea. I don't even think a knife's a good idea. I could definitely see a homeless person taking the knife from you and stabbing you with it. Like you trip over something or you're trying to carry your fucking driftwood underneath your arm and he just gets the best of you. I don't think bears you have to really worry about. I'm not saying there's not bears down in that area, but I'm pretty sure they're super rare.
Like if I'm not of calm mind and I'm freaking out with my pistol and he's coming at me and I'm like trying to fire, I'm like, it's not firing. And he's like, here, hand me the gun. It's the safety. And I hand him the gun and he turns off the safety and just shoots me. But like, I'm not of sound mind.
Well, that's why you don't get a gun with a safety.
Yeah, I know, like that Glock.
Yeah. I told you this. Your finger is the safety. You don't need a safety if you're already safe.
And I think also the mind is the safety too.
Goes without saying.
You know?
I don't know. It all sounds like a terrible idea to me, really, if we're being honest. I think, one, I don't think anybody in the history of the world ever says, I need to make sure I'm carrying because I need to go collect this driftwood off the riverbank. Like most people go, I would like to have a concealed carry so I can protect myself and my family given certain circumstances. But you're very specific in stating that when I walk the riverbanks of the Ohio River,
yeah,
in case a bear attacks me or a feral homeless person, I want to be protected. That's your reasoning.
Yeah.
It's an interesting line of reasoning for wanting to do that. I'm just saying, listen, as someone who has many firearms, there's never a time in which I was like, you know what? When I walk through the riverbanks collecting driftwood, it'd be real nice to have something to protect myself.
You know what's interesting, bro? You bring up a good point. They call them firearms because we hold them with our arms. But like, when are we going to come up with fire legs? Like weapons that we can carry and fire from our feet or our legs.
Some people do. It's the only way you can get the shotgun in your mouth.
Fuck. That's dark.
Pretty dark on that. Well, let's move on. I do have an interesting topic today, one of which I've wanted to talk about for a week now. So we will be talking about, since it is fresh in the cigar world, is the Room 101 acquisition by STG. So big news in the industry. And it's not necessarily just what this is, but what it could potentially represent for the long term. And that being said, I will preface, we will have Matt Booth on the show next week to divulge all the information and the gaps that we're all trying to fill, the game plan for what is to happen in the future. He will be on the podcast next week to kind of give us a breakdown of all that stuff, which I'm very excited about. So we haven't talked to Matt. Well, I don't know. We usually talk to him on a pretty regular interval, but it's probably been 6 months. I think the last time I talked to him was Christmas time. So it's appropriate, given the news, to have him back on to, to make some statements as far as like, here's why, here's what we're looking to do in the future. So I'm pretty excited about that. So he will be up next week, but I wanted to take some time today to actually go over the acquisition and just give my thoughts and opinions based upon some of the commentary that you see out on social media, the pleasure and or displeasure in many instances of this acquisition, people's thoughts as far as like, what does this actually mean for the Room 101 brand and for the industry as a whole? But before we get into that, we do have some other news that I want to cover that's pretty relevant since PCA is coming up. So we do have some new cigar releases that are out. Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, this is pretty excited, is bringing a new Mi Querida line, the Shaka Khan, which will be debuted at PCA 2022. Pretty excited about a new Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust cigar. I feel like every time they release something, it's almost, I kind of put their footprint in a very similar fashion that I would like Crown Heads. It's like when something releases, I feel like the industry really gets excited about it. They do it on these like really good intervals. It's like these new things coming up and the community doesn't create hype around it. it kind of already has some hype, just given, obviously what Steve Stock has done in the industry for many,
You
many
know,
years.
you know what I find interesting about Steve Saka with some of the blends he's been coming out with lately is he's like the Willy Wonka of the cigar industry.
Speaking of, I have a story that is relevant to Willy Wonka. Continue.
But I just feel like he has a very daring mind to go outside of the norms of cigar manufacturing and blends, and like he tries weird shit.
Yeah, he's kind of like the Oz, so to speak, for the cigar world. Like
Yeah.
he is like this almost like this scientific mastermind. Like he's the Frankenstein, sometimes I think, of the cigar world.
Yeah.
Not that he's trying to reanimate dead tissue, but you know what I mean? Like he's got this thought process, a certain thing I think that triggers in his brain. Like, ooh, he seems like a guy that would just be sitting there one day and go, oh, it'd be really fucking cool to do this. And then he just goes and does it. But the new Shaka Khan is coming out. It isn't a Churchill Vitola. It's a very large Vitola, which is, I don't want to say uncharacteristic of Dumbarton Tobacco and Trust and their core line. It kind of is, but then you have the Sen Comp that has, large sizes. This is 7.25 by 54. Interesting makeup, which is kind of cool. And it does have a little pigtail cap, which is always cute. Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, Mexican San Andreas binder, cool binder type, and then a flurry of different filler types. So Dominican, Honduran, and Nicaraguan. So it will be interesting. I'm actually really excited about, especially the Mi Querida lines, like the Tricky Troc I love, the original I love. So it's good to see that we've got another one that's coming out that'll hopefully be on the shelves post-show. So it would be roughly $15 a piece, which is a pretty large Vitola. I feel like that's in line with what they typically come out in this series of cigars. So another addition that I think will be very welcome to the cigar industry, especially since it's been, in my opinion, pretty lackluster this year so far, 6 months in. I haven't really seen anything that's like blown my socks off yet. So
Well, you kind of
minus the Crown Heads 2022. Okay.
Yeah, you kind of missed the mark though, because like I feel like this month would have been the perfect month for him to release it since it's Pride Month. You know?
Yeah, that's true. Is it Pride Month? Oh, it is Pride Month, isn't it?
Mi Querida.
Yeah. You stretched for that one, but I admire your
Hey, you gotta
pursuit of a good joke.
You gotta throw them up on the board and see if they stick.
I admire you running for that joke. Really stretching for that one. This is really exciting. Foundation announces Toro Vitola for the Menelik. So if you remember before, the Menelik was what, a 4 3/4 by 50 or a 4.5 by 50. It's a short little dong.
Yeah.
So really, they're just packing more tobacco and trying to create essentially a longer smoke for the Menelik, which, remember, at one time, the Menelik was an event-only cigar and then became a regular production cigar. It was very popular when it released regular production. And now they're expanding into a different Vitola, which is going to be, the first one was a 4.5 by 52. Sorry, I was wrong. My bad. But this is almost traditional Toro size and 6 by 52. So it's really cool to see that there'll be a new iteration of the Menelik coming out. I think Foundation is another one of those companies that when something comes out, even if it's a Vitola change, which is weird because they're one of the only companies that will do Vitola changes, especially when you talk about like the David and Goliath stuff that they've done. I love those Vitolas so much. Like they are so freaking good, those little perfectos. So when they make changes like that, I get really excited about it because it really does profoundly change the profile of the cigar. I'm hoping that does the same thing for the Menelik. I was never a huge Menelik fan. There's like people who are all over the nuts of this cigar and have been for a long time. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was amazing, but I am excited to try it in a different Vitola because everybody's so excited about this cigar originally, and it had so much attention and everybody loved it so much. And it was a fairly lackluster for me. I don't think it lived up to the hype. So getting to experience it in another Vitola may change my opinion about the blend overall. So I'm excited to see this one come out very soon.
Yeah, which one did we have before that? The Umbagog, and we were like, yeah, the Umbagog is like
that's Dumbarton Tobacco.
That's Dumbarton. Yeah, sorry. I'm a little fuzzy headed today.
Sure.
You know when you say something and as it's coming out of your face, you realize what you're saying is like, that's not right. But you still say it anyway. It's like coming out wrong and you know it's wrong, but you just continue to go down that train of thought.
I feel like that's what you always do.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. there's some other things out there, but I don't know that they're super noteworthy. You guys will hear about them soon enough, but not big releases. Anyway, this is actually something I came across yesterday, just scouring the internet for different things. This is my relevance to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory because it reminds me of Gustav Galup. So a pair rescued from chocolate tank at a Mars Wrigley plant in Pennsylvania. There was two subcontractors that were apparently there assessing something at the Mars bar factory. And they fell into the fucking tank. They had to be rescued. They had to cut the bottom out of it to get them out. They still don't know how they fell in. They don't know how they actually got in the tank. But when I was reading it, it reminded me of the part in Willy Wonka where Gustav falls into the chocolate vat and then he gets sucked up through that tube.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but to think about that when I fucking read this article. I was like, this is fantastic. This is like a real life Willy Wonka. So yeah, they got stuck and two people got stuck in the tanks and they had to cut a hole in the bottom. Rescue crew had to cut a hole in the bottom to get them out. Wonder how expensive that is.
Oh, well, that chocolate's wasted.
The chocolate's wasted. The tank's ruined. Like
Tainted. Like that's how it happened in Willy Wonka too. It's like, I gotta clean the tubes.
Yeah, we got to clean the whole thing. You think this Elizabethtown Mars bar factory has Oompa Loompas going around cleaning shit? Dude, that would be so cool. But also, like, you ever find it to be weird that, like, when the movie was made, it's like, here's this indigenous group of people, and I save their lives, and they work here for free. It's got some striking parallels to slavery, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I took them out of this bad place and I gave them this place to live and they
all I ask is that they run my chocolate factory.
Right. Oh, they're taken care of. They have their own living quarters.
They're doing it on their own volition.
We make sure to feed them. It's like, what? They're just little orange slaves.
And all they get to eat is chocolate. That's it.
Yeah. Just copious amounts of candy, which is all the diabetes ridden. It's what keeps them there.
Why do you think all of them looked heavy?
Yeah, they all, well,
look at all the hips on them. They all have big hips, man.
Listen, I'm not touching that one. I went through a serious diversity and inclusion training the other day for 4 hours and I'm changing my ways.
That's good.
Yeah. So cool it with the microaggressions.
Well, it's not a microaggression.
Chris,
it's literally a stated fact. If you look at their hips on the Oompa Loompas in the original,
they have, like, what do you think they put in there to do that?
I don't know.
You know what I think it is? Like
the
chalks that you use to put behind tires. I think they stuff them in their hips.
Yeah, and like, is that a style? Is that like a weird German style or a Swedish, like?
I think it's just
Netherlands thing.
No, I think that's their body.
Oh, you think?
I think it's their body.
There's flesh in there.
I think it's the representation of how they're built. And I don't think it's like a thing stuffed in there. I don't think it's like a thing an object that they put in there. I think that's just how they were built.
What if they were just giant hip cysts?
Because you can't really make them. If you think about it, you can't really make them just little people, because then they're not. The only thing that's a unique characteristic, well, I guess they're still orange and have green hair. But like from a body type perspective, I feel like you have to change that up a little bit because I think what you don't want to do is you don't want an Oompa Loompa to be characterized as a little person. You want an Oompa Loompa to be an Oompa Loompa. So you have to change something physically on them. And I think that's why they have the wide and sharp hips.
Do you think if an Oompa Loompa got sun and like started to get tan, like what color do you think they would turn?
Just look like Donald Trump.
You think they'd look like purplish?
Yeah, like what is the shade
if they got more melanin in their orange skin?
Like I don't know, Chris. Purple? They're sequestered in that factory because, again, this is slavery. Do you think they ever see sunlight?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Although Willy Wonka has the ability to do it artificially through some sort of weird magicry with chocolate.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
I created sun lamps with chocolate, so all of my Oompa Loompas get vitamin D.
Like they go bed at night, they just turn on little sun lamps.
Yeah.
God, an Oompa Loompa. What a weird thing, huh? Tim Burton. Dude's got a mind. Wait, Tim Burton's not Willy Wonka, is it? was thinking Johnny Depp movies, and they all just happen to be Tim Burton. But I don't even know who the original creator of Willy Wonka is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Speaking of Johnny Depp, he won.
I know.
Won the defamation trial. Which how have they not coined it the defecation trial since she shit in his bed?
I just find it ironic that they say they announced defamation, but that means no one can hear it.
Nice.
I'm still trying.
I did think it was interesting that, and an ironic turn of events, you know, she countered sued. He sued for 50 million. She countered sued for 100 million. He won the defamation trial for 15 million. She happens to be worth 2.5 million.
Yeah.
What's also interesting about everything when you're just adding up the dollars and cents, she also donated or pledged $7 million in the outcome of the previous lawsuit that she won to go to charity. So because she pledged that, and because it is supposed to go to charity, now she literally has nothing. Her net worth is nothing, and she owes him $15 million. My whole thing is if Amber Heard right now started an OnlyFans, she'd be set. She'd make that 15 million back so bad. If she started an OnlyFans and she whipped them titties out, I guarantee she would have because of all this trial and because of the celebrity around it, dude, she would make that money back in no time. She could pay him back, make more money, would never have to do any sort of poor acting again because she literally is a horrible actress. She's very, very subpar. She just make all of her money back. Just get on OnlyFans.
I so badly.
Did you hear? Go ahead.
She's got a lot of mental issues, man.
I mean, everything she says and the way she says it is super disingenuous. There's people like, you know, that in real life. Like, you know, it's like you just become accustomed. Like as you get older and as you mature, there's certain things about people that they say, even in their demeanor and their body language, we can tell they're lying. You can tell it's a fib. Like, because you really get good at reading people over a period of time, because you start to create the connections of, okay, someone has lied to me before and has said this thing or has acted this way. Now this person is doing it. So you kind of create assimilation between those things, right? And then you go, okay, this person's lying to me. It feels disingenuous. It feels fake. There's certain triggers that we pull up consciously and subconsciously that say, okay, someone's lying. Every time she talks, that's the feeling I get. Nothing seems genuine in anything she says. It is her best acting is probably what she's done throughout this entire course of lawsuits and trial and all that stuff, because it's just all fake. It's all fake. Like you can tell in the way that she's talking and speaking to people.
Her delivery.
Yeah, her delivery. Which
it's like,
speaking of, you got to listen to this clip real quick.
Okay.
This is really, so I don't know if you heard Amber Heard in her first, it was in her first interview back. The thing she says about Edward Scissorhands. Listen to this. It's so funny.
Okay, give me a sec. Let me get coffee. Can I get some coffee to like help with my throat?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, you can do whatever you want. You're an adult.
You know, I'm getting to the point now, my age, my health, the fact that, you know, I've gotten all this social anxiety that I don't even want to leave my house anymore. The thing is, like, I still want to smoke cigars at home, but I sure as shit do not want to leave my home.
Yeah, well, you're perpetually sick. So there's a societal responsibility that you have as well.
I just wish there was like some way for me to like buy cigars without having to think about it.
I think I have the medicine for you. My cigar pack. Curated packs come straight to your door every single month.
Is it
5-pack of cigars, specially handpicked for you. And you can also subscribe to the Factory Direct program and get cigars that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, as long as it covers the Omnicom variant, I'm good.
I heard they show up in hazmat suits.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that safety and protection are at top of mind.
That's
so
good.
you can visit My Cigar Pack, www.mycigarpack.com, just for all their options. Again, that's www.mycigarpack.com. And we're back. Yeah, so her first interview back in the spotlight again, I think it was on the Today Show.
Yeah.
And just listen to it. So I'm just going to hold my phone up to the microphone so people can hear it. Hopefully it actually plays.
The Depp lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer.
for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers.
Yeah, I watched that interview.
It is so funny. And also a pretty hilarious, but obviously not a great retort, but really
it's just
funny.
like, it makes me begin to question. It's like, yeah, but you realize that's not reality.
But that's the funny thing, is that it's hilarious that she responded with something that literally has people confused. Like people's comments, like everybody like on Twitter has just commented and gone, she does realize that wasn't real, right?
None of us are convinced
Like,
these
the scissors
or fingers
were fake. And the fact that, I mean, it is funny. And I probably would have responded in a similar way, but I would have done it actually as a joke. She wasn't doing it as a joke. She's being dead serious. She's like, oh, who's the one that's acting? The guy who convinced everybody had scissors for hands, or me, who has been a victim in this whole thing? It's like, well, those scissors weren't real. It's a movie. It's a Tim Burton film.
Exactly.
That one was a Tim Burton film.
Yeah. That whole interview was interesting because I think the lady who was doing the interview, one, she kept a pretty good neutral demeanor, but definitely was calling out some BSery with some good line of questioning.
Of course. How can you not?
And Amber obviously trying to not show any emotion towards it in her responses. I don't know, man. She's going to continue to get herself in trouble. She really is.
You think
And
so?
I think we're already starting to see it. Yeah.
Like, do you think she's not going to quit? She's going to keep poking this thing and just
She's going to keep poking, because I think in her mind, she's got to ride this wave. Like, I think a normal person would be like, okay,
I'm bowing out.
I'm stepping out of this.
Right.
I'm stepping out of this. It's healthier for me to do so. There's nothing to be gained from it outside of more shit.
Yeah, it's like, but it seems to me like the whole endeavor I mean, if you watch any series of the trial, right, it went on for weeks and weeks. It seems
6 weeks or so.
literally exhausting. You know what I mean? Like, and then you're having to recount, you're having to, like, I always say this, telling the truth doesn't take a lot of energy.
No.
Lying takes a lot of energy because you got to keep all these untruths and all these fucking tales. You got to keep them straight. You know how hard that is? You know how exhausting that must have been from her, and every single turn that she was lying about certain things, and then she's trying to keep it all straight. And by the way, you're trying to keep it all straight while battling people who literally their entire job is to catch you in a lie. That sounds like the most exhausting thing on earth. Like, why would you want a round two? This would actually technically be round three, because she filed a lawsuit against them in the UK. I believe that's the one she won for $7 million. This is essentially his countersuit, a defamation suit, because of what she did previously. And of course, the accusations, which have caused him to miss out on work, right? And acting. So for me, it seems, okay, you won the first battle. He won the second battle in a bigger way. That garnered way more attention from folks in the United States. I mean, this was the biggest trial in history since O.J. Simpson. Like, everybody was watching this, and some of you were watching on social media, or you were watching it live. Pretty much everybody saw bits and clips and pieces of it, if not the whole trial. And it had so much attention. It just, to me, seems so incredibly exhausting. Like, why do you want a round three? Like, why would you want to go any further? Like, at what point? And I honestly, it could be an era of narcissism. I honestly believe that. I think her ego is like running her over, and an unwarranted ego in that. She's a horrible actress. I've always thought she was so terrible. I remember when, because they got married, what, like 6-7 years ago? It was a while ago.
2016 or 15.
And I was like, why? She's so terrible in acting. Like, why would you buy her? You're Johnny Depp. Like, you could literally pick anybody. So I thought that was kind of weird. But anyway, I just couldn't understand, and I can't fathom how much more energy are you willing to expend on a round three. Like, if she were to pursue something, right? Why? What's the point? And here's the thing. Here's the reality. Given your reputation across the country right now, you're likely not going to win. You would have to have some really fucking hard evidence, like some very provable things, without a doubt, without question, that cannot be disputed by lawyers, to bring forward for you to win anything moving forward. You're just not going to win.
I think it's denialism.
Yeah, there's got to be that. I honestly, I think it's probably
I
most
think
part
ego.
stupidity and ego.
Yeah.
I think there's so much ego there. Again, unwarranted ego, because it's like, who's Amber Heard? No one gives a shit about Amber Heard. Oh, your net worth is $2.5 million. Listen, I'm not saying scoff at $2.5 million. It's a lot of money.
Not
Johnny
for
Depp,
not for a 35-year-old.
actress.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Johnny Depp is worth so many hundreds. The guy has properties in like every country in the fucking world. Like he spends money.
What was
like
it, 9 penthouses or something like
it's
that?
insane. It's a ridiculous amount. He spent like, his lawyer said $250,000 a month on wine. If
Yeah.
you're worth $2.5 million, you can't do that.
Hey, it's because he's the man that convinced the world that he's got scissors for fingers.
I know he could do anything.
He can fucking do anything.
He's been a pirate. He's convinced the world he had scissors for
He
fingers.
ain't Johnny Depp, man. He's a fucking pirate.
Yeah.
He's Captain Jack Sparrow in real life.
He always is kind of a character. Like
Yeah.
he did
He's
in a
eccentric.
weird way pretty much morph into Jack Sparrow as a real human being.
Yes, he did.
Which is very strange. Like he permanently took on the character of Jack Sparrow, which I always found to be very odd.
Like the
Talks like him, looks like him, has all the fucking
heat caps and the bracelets and the
all the bracelets and the bandanas and shit. So
eyeshadow.
yeah, so creepy. Anyway, let's get into this discussion. So Scandinavian Tobacco Group, STG, acquired Room 101, which was really big news in the industry this week. And will probably be big news for a period of time. There's a lot to kind of unpack with this whole situation. First, what I want to say is obviously a huge congratulations to Matt Booth. I already texted him and told him congratulations, because I think, and you know this, Chris, and we'll get a little bit more deeper into this topic, a little bit more detailed. As somebody who owns and operates a business, especially in the cigar world, where it's really just you and maybe a couple other people, you spend so much time creatively, you spend so much time on the business aspects, you spend so much time trying to build the business, and you're building the business and you're building the brand, and it's little piece by piece, right? It's this shop here, this shop here, this shop here, this release here, this release here. And really you're trying to just build everything up, right? And you're trying to make a meaningful business out of this thing that is tobacco, which is a hard thing to do, right? In and of itself is a difficult thing to do. I suspect, not being a business owner in the same way, I suspect one of the things most business owners will do in the category of cigars or other is that you build your business enough to be attractive to potential suitors, or you have value so much, you've put so much value into the business that it's worth something to someone else, right? So potential acquisitions like happened with STG. In this case, STG buys Room 101, and we don't know, there's no public numbers yet, although STG is a public company. I'm assuming at some point we'll understand the figures of the acquisition. They just haven't been released yet, how much Matt actually took away with. But if you're a business owner, is not one of your main goals to build a business that could potentially be acquired? I've not met very many business owners in the line of work that I do. I work with people who own businesses every single day of the week. And I have not talked to one of them that wouldn't be interested in getting their company acquired for the right price. And I think part of it goes to, and we've talked about this before. there's the pretty part of business, which is the 10% of the iceberg that you get to see from the ocean, and oh, look how pretty it is. And then you have this 90% of this fucking mess. That's everything that has to be put into the business at the bottom, right? And that encapsulates the entire business and all the effort that you put into it. Me, speaking personally, not owning a cigar company, if an offer were attractive enough, I would probably go, well, yeah, of course, this is a no-brainer. Also, keep in mind, Matt Booth has other businesses. Those were not sold, only the cigars. He still has his gin. He's got his CBD stuff. He's got his jewelry. All those things are still operated by themselves. Other business that he owns and operates. It's just the cigar world, right? So when I see comments about him being a sellout, or I get messages from people that are saying, wow, Matt Booth's a sellout. Yeah, he is. He technically is a sellout because he sold his business. But I don't know why there was a reception of such negative attention around it when I think most people don't understand what it actually takes to own and operate a business like Matt does.
You know what? I have theories on this.
Go for it.
Ready?
This is an open discussion.
There's 2 points I want to make. And this is speculation, and Matt will probably divulge or correct me if I'm wrong. But you put it pretty straightforward, which is he owns and pretty much operates 3 other entities, including tobacco. By definition, if you were just to take that on a resume, Matt Booth is what I would call a serial entrepreneur. A serial entrepreneur typically gets in the business of starting businesses from scratch, growing them, and selling them. They are passion plays. You don't want to do something that you're not passionate about. But at the same time, people who are considered serial entrepreneurs love the game of taking nothing and turning it into something. And when the opportunities arise, as you say, where it becomes to a point where it's either attractive to sell or you want to move on to your next ideas and don't have the bandwidth to do so, you sell one of your properties. So to me, he's a serial entrepreneur, and a good one at that, especially if you take into consideration his gin and his jewelry.
Right.
He's doing well. Like,
sure.
So to sell out, to your point, yeah, he's a sellout, but that's the nature of being a serial entrepreneur, which I don't think a lot of people have personal experience of understanding that type of mindset as an
Considering
entrepreneur.
when I say sellout, I don't mean it in a derogatory term. I mean it as a literal thing.
2, I have to question these people that consider him a sellout, who do take it or who posture that point as a negative. Because part of me is like, why would you even say that?
Right.
Is it because you feel threatened that the products you're buying are no longer going to be something you like?
I think there's that element, which we'll dive deeper into that for sure.
And 2, are you just butthurt that someone you know that you probably envy or admire has made money?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he wouldn't sell it if this wasn't advantageous for him to do. So, he's clearly made money. You know what I mean? You
know how people get envious when they know someone relatively well, or they think they know, and it's like, yeah, they just fucking got a big ass promotion, or like they just sold their company for $10 million. You tell me you don't feel slightly envious when you hear those stories?
Yeah, I think I always think there's this thing that exists out in the world, which is kind of strange. I think the cigar community it's sometimes a little bit different, a little bit more challenged in the idea of these kind of things happening. I think because people are so used to there being this separation and segregation of brands. You have big brands and you have boutique brands. Those worlds typically haven't crossed too much. I use the example. I was talking to Cal the other day. Well, we were just messaging back and forth about this whole thing, and he made some really good points, and some of those I want to talk about on here. But I did find it interesting that, and comparatively, I remember back to the times of which Goose Island beer was one of the only like craft brew. They were one of the first craft breweries out. Like that was like true craft. They had that 321 beer. It was like really popular, still is. And then you have an organization like Anheuser-Busch that says, oh, wow, there's some magic being created in this space. I'm also Anheuser-Busch. Well, I want to be a part of the magic in that space. I want to continue selling my Anheuser-Busch. I want to sell all my Busch products. Shit that you find on, gas station convenience shelves all the time. But I can see there's a trend towards this other thing. So let's acquire Goose Island, which is exactly what Anheuser-Busch did. It's one of their biggest acquisitions of craft brewery. It was one of the first ones, right? That's where I think's happening here. So I think the reaction is uncomfortable as it was with Goose Island and Anheuser-Busch because the people who were these craft beer fans were like, why would Goose Island sell out? You know what I mean? But the recognition was, hey, the beer's not going to change, at least as Anheuser-Busch said.
Yeah.
But we just want to more widely distribute this thing that is now trending in the beer world.
You bring up another good point, actually. Sometimes the reason acquisitions happen is because, one, the people doing the acquiring see value in it, but two, it might be advantageous for the brand to then scale beyond what the current owners were capable of doing. So
I think there's two elements to that, and we'll touch on those. I want to circle back real quick to the reaction of the collective cigar community. There's been far more happiness and praise to this than there has been the negative comments. But I've seen a healthy mixture of both. I think some people are genuinely proud. I think some people are skeptical of the future. Like, what does this really mean for the brand? And other people are just downright pissed. Like, I'm not going to smoke Room 101 anymore. Which I suspect Matt Booth is not a dumb person. Probably knew that there's going to be some polarizing reactions as a result of this, right? But it's his business. He's making the decision for his business, which I admire to the nth degree. You know, it's no offense, but you kind of go, you know, fuck off. This is my business to run and operate. Now, the interesting part to all of this is Matt didn't just go, hey, STG, here's all my stuff, you know, and writes the brand. Here's the cigars that we have made. You can continue production, all that. He's staying on and has creative control moving forward. So he's still going to be running the brand, still going to be working with the factories. So I think that's the interesting dynamic to this whole thing, is that Matt, as a very creative person, he is a creative type. You have Matt Booth and you have STG that is an operating machine of a business. They are very corporate. STG is a publicly traded company. I know people at STG. So it's interesting in the mindset of that really corporate dynamic interlacing itself for the first time really ever with someone like Matt Booth. So that to me is the question mark. Are those two personalities, those two types of businesses able to commingle, coexist, and work together to build the brand? Because the fact, to me, and you hit it on the head, now we can move into this topic. I think, and like most businesses, because I work with businesses who have also done the same thing, acquisition makes most sense to them because they have these thoughts and ideas, these things that progress their business forward, but they don't have the capital to do it. And they don't have the resources to do it. So to me, if Matt has these creative things swimming in his head and he goes, I want to do this type of release, I want to work on something like this, I need access to this, or I need funding for this, this would essentially, being part of STG, give him the ability to do that. So he can just take his creativity to another level. So I think there's that element. And I think there's the element of STG, like Anheuser-Busch, recognized, because STG has some reputable brands, but not in this category, not in this space. This is the recognition of a very large corporation saying the boutique thing is a big thing and it's moving really hot and fast to the industry and has been trending for a long time. We see, and STG has seen this because they announced it, their losses from the previous year. So how do you make up for those things? How do you transcend your business to be relevant in the future? This is a category of which you can start with. My thought, well, I'll pause there because I have thoughts and theories about what could potentially happen in the future. But so those are the two elements for me that make most sense. It helps Matt Booth augment and do the things he wants to do, right? It gives him the capital, gives him the funding, gives him the resources because he's a part of a much bigger company. So that induction of money itself can help really traject Room 101 and whatever his creative ideas are to move the brand forward. Gives him the ability to do that much faster than he could probably do on his own. I think more interesting is what kind of gap does this fill, or what kind of play does this have for STG, really now owning and operating pretty much the only boutique brand in their lineup. I actually think it is the only. They have categorically named a few that fit underneath the same thing, and I strongly disagree that I'd put them in the same category. They use names like the Diesel lineup and La Gloria Cubana and some of the CAO and Macanudo product. I'm like, no. It's STG. If you're smart, you won't make those name associations to the Room 101 brand, because if you start looping those things together, you start looping those brands together, you dilute what Room 101 is. Do not dilute it. make it its own separate thing, make it its own separate focus. And if there's other brands down the future in the future that you decide you want to acquire that more align with Room 101, put them in their own category. Don't say we also have these other let's call them small batch brands and or boutique brands, because those aren't the reality. Those brands are not Room 101. Do not lump them together. I'm warning you, that would be a terrible idea.
I got an idea for a category. Matt, if you're listening to this, give me a second to cough. All right. You got Matt Booth, right?
Yeah.
Name, Matt Booth, right? And then you've got Boutique.
Boutique.
This cigar is Boutique. It is in a category all by itself.
That would be a great name for an upcoming cigar for.
It's Boutique.
Given this acquisition, Boutique. That's fantastic. Yeah, they literally put in here. The company added Room 101 cigars to its portfolio and will complement STG's handmade cigar portfolio that included both heritage and boutique brands such as Macanudo, CAO, Cohiba, Partagas, La Gloria Cubana, and others. Please do not put them in the same category because you will be fucking yourself. Room 101 cigars will be distributed by Forged Cigar Company, which is an STG company. It was launched in January 2021 that distributes La Gloria Cubana, Diesel, Partagas, and several other brands. I think it's a terrible idea to lump those together. That personally for me, I'm like, don't even put the names in the category. Like, don't put out a press release that puts those names together. STG could have been really smart about this in the press release and saying, we are attacking a brand new category. We understand what the boutique market looks like, and we're not trying to interrupt it. We're trying to augment it. We're trying to give people the ability to get their hands on more small batch smokes. We have the distribution network to do so. We have the funding to do so. I think you could have been a bit more tactful in the release and probably waited a little bit not to lump it in those other categories. I think that's a miss on STG's part. Personally, I would not have used those other names because that's what's scaring people. What's scaring people is, oh, great. Now Room 101 is going to be another CAO. Oh, great. Now Room 101 is going to be another Partagas. Oh, great. Now Room 101 is going to be another Diesel, which nobody wants. There isn't a person in the world that goes, give me more of those three. So I think it's a bit of a miss. And I think that's the question mark going forward is like, how does that all shape up? How does Matt as a creative director? How does STG as a corporation? How are the needs and wants and the demand of the cigar community? How are those things all going to fold together to really trajectory the Room 101 brand beyond what it is currently? It's a big brand name. If you're into cigars, especially if you're a cigar smoker, not, you meant like a true cigar smoker, you know who Room 101 is. Like them or hate them, you've heard the name and you've probably had one of the cigars. So great brand, great reputation. And of course, having Matt at the helm certainly helps. It just, the question mark is how's it going to play out? And it could play out two ways. This could be a profoundly cool and unique thing for Room 101 that, again, evolves the brand past what Matt could do on his own. Or depending on how those two businesses collide and how the creativity collides with the business aspects, it could be, and hopefully not, another example of a CAO or other.
Yeah, that'd be my fear, is like how much input and control is on the access of tobacco. You would assume that they have a crap ton of access to tobaccos.
All of it. I would say all of it. I mean, they're such a big company, they can get whatever they want, I would assume.
So you'd have to imagine that based on their company, what we've seen with CAO, some of the other ones, Macanudo. There's people that like those brands, but I think a lot of people find them to be relatively dull.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you think of the access to tobacco, having access to anything you want, well, those two don't really synergize, right? Because if you have access to crazy good tobacco, but cigars turn out dull and lackluster amongst the consumer side of things, well, then it's really not about the tobacco. It's about the blends and the process and creativity around those blends. So, and that at that level, that falls on Macanudo, that falls on CAO, Partagas, Diesel. That all falls on those people. If they all have creative control too, which is possible, likely, it's not about the tobacco. It's about the creative license of those companies creating blends that they think consumers are going to like, and them just unfortunately turning out to not be home runs.
I think what scares me, and there's an element of, I think that some of that can be shackled a little bit. And I'll use STG as an example. And I'm only saying this like, this is all hypothetical things that we're talking about because we don't know. I haven't talked to anyone.
Yeah.
You know, it's just based on what I know about business. STG is a publicly traded company. Well, we all know publicly traded companies have obligations to shareholders. How do you meet your obligations to shareholders when you're a company that's experienced losses? We have to gain profits. One of the things that makes me a little bit nervous is cost control, because you know as well as I do, cost control in the tobacco world can make the difference between a really good cigar and a really poor cigar. No matter what your intentions are as a blender, if you can only work with so many things and you only can dedicate so much of a cost to a cigar. And I think that was one of the things that I think was always challenging to me for CAO. CAO would put a bunch of money into the marketing and the packaging, and let's put some fucking dice in there and call this cigar Bones, but let's create a shitty fucking cigar because it's these other fucking sparkly fun things that we're going to do over here, and you'll forget about how terrible the cigar is. We've cost controlled the cigar. We're not using incredible tobacco in the cigar, although we're saying we are. That's just the marketing spin. Everybody fucking does that. But we've tried to create an experience for you, but we really dulled what the actual cigar is over on this end. I think that's the thing that people get a little bit scared about and a little bit nervous about, is that that's what's going to end up happening. And there is going to be a cost control element that exists with everything. You know, Matt may look at what he's done, and I'm not saying he's not trying to control costs, but he may look at it and say, okay, this is a cigar that I want to blend. I'm going to make this cigar. Here's my cost of tobacco, and I got to sell it for profits that make sense for my business. So it could be in the range of $8 sell price, maybe even up to $15, $20, depending on what you're using and how expensive it is. I don't know that you're going to have the same autonomy and control to do that with a company like STG, because STG really has a sweet spot. Like STG they don't have brands underneath there, not that I know of, that are going to clip super high price points. Within some of those portfolios of those cigars, you may have one or two like special edition things that are going to be a little bit more expensive. But I think from a core line perspective, you're talking anywhere from that $7 to $10 range. So there is always going to be a cost control element that exists there. So it's, if Matt is the creative director, does he have full autonomy and control, or is it you're the creative director, but here's your bumpers and boundaries, and you've got to operate within these parameters? And at that point, you really got to look at it and say, well, do you have creative control? Can you do the things that you've wanted to do? Can you still make really ridiculously good cigars, keep the brand reputation the way that it is, and evolve the brand the way that you want to? These are the question marks. This is what people are going to be wanting to see over a period of time.
Does he get to remain the wild stallion, or are they going to tame him up and put him behind a fence? I feel you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting long term. Now, here's the thing that I want to end on, because this is what Cal and I were talking about, and a few other people that I was messaging back and forth with. This is not going to be the last. This is only the first. And this is just because you've seen these business trends over a period of time. And now there's going to be this recognition of other brands who may be struggling to do things that they want to do. Great reputations, work their asses off, travel around the country, always in fucking, packed suitcases, always in humidors, literally just grinding it out, grassroots efforts, slinging cigars. May recognize this as a viable option for them if they have a great brand. So where I don't know how this acquisition happened. I don't know if STG came to Room 101 and Room 101 came to STG and says, I have this proposition for you. I don't know how that came together. But what I will say is now you're going to have a bunch of these small boutique brands going, this is possible. We can do this. And by the way, STG isn't the only fucking company out there. You have Altatus as well. And guarantee that this is going to start sparking some competitive discussions. Right. It's going to start sparking some competitive discussions. Whoa, look what STG did. You got Room 101. They are heading into the boutique space with this Room 101 brand. Okay, well, what could happen if we did that? And is it spark competition, or does it spark more creative ideas in other places where, hey, now we can really start building out a boutique brand portfolio, which is what I suspect STG is going to do. Room 101 is not going to be the last. They're the first. They will not be the last.
What I find interesting is that this is a discussion we had back when FDA regulations were talking about spiking sales tax.
Big brands consuming.
Big brands acquiring little ones that are struggling. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of I think this is going to launch that experience. I think that is what is going to launch, and I think you're going to start seeing companies like STG and you're going to see Allotatus of the world dipping their toes into this boutique experience. Because here's the reality: you look at the evolution of cigars and where is it trending? We've been a part of the trend for such a long time, and it almost seems super obvious, right? But a lot of businesses don't really change what they do until they start experiencing losses or not the same growth trajectory that they've been on. So you kind of got to move and shake. Well, now you're going to be assessing these other pieces of business in the cigar world and saying, okay, what would make sense to augment our portfolio that can help gain some profits? Like where are the consumers going? Where's the demand at? Well, the boutique experience is where a lot of that demand is. A substantial amount of that demand has been in the boutique space for such a long time. And by the way, and I've said this forever, and this is just a reality, the old dudes who are buying boxes CEOs, they're going to be dying soon. A lot of them have already died. I know that sounds morbid, but it's a reality. You can't fucking buy cigars when you're 6 feet under the fucking ground. And I'm telling you, the new wave of people are not buying boxes of CAOs. They're either entrenched in the boutique world or they're exploring and they're trying different stuff. There's more single purchases. There's more 5-pack purchases. There's more subscription-based stuff than there ever fucking has been. People are not buying boxes to the same degree, which is probably why STG has seen some of their numbers go down. That clientele is changing. And now you have to morph your business for the wants and needs and desires of the consumer. This space makes the most sense, which is why I think STG made this move. Again, not going to be the first one, or sorry, it's not going to be the last one. It's the first one. It will not be the last. I guarantee within the next 6 months, we see 1 or 2 more, and we'll see it with another company like Allotatus.
Why did I grab my face like I had glasses on? I was about to adjust my glasses. I don't have glasses on.
I have no idea. But if my dog keeps barking, I don't know if you can hear that. I'm going to kill him. Okay, no. Thank God the microphone's not picking up because he keeps barking, and I'm going to rip his goddamn larynx out. Continue.
What's interesting is I think you're right. I think, hey, boutiques, if you're out there and you're hearing this, you're just going to have to use more tits and ass to sell your cigars. More tits and ass.
More tit, dude.
Which I guess wouldn't even be called boutique at that point. It'd be called boobtique.
Boobtique. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got some heat the other day for one. Woo-wee.
But I wonder with this potential avenue of opportunity, how much more true sellout type mentalities we're going to be able to discern from brands that we know or see pop up, like, nah, these guys are doing it for the wrong reasons, or these guys are.
And I thought about that too, because I think Matt Booth and Room 101 is the best litmus test. Almost like if you can't make this work, you're going to really struggle making others work. Just because I think who Matt is and what he's done to build this brand and his, not only his reputation in the industry, but like you said, serial business entrepreneur, right? Like he's got other brands. He's started other businesses. He's dipped his toes in fucking everything. Right.
Yeah.
And has done so successfully. So I think it's interesting is like, if you can't make this happen, if it doesn't work out, the fault lies somewhere, but what's going to be the piece that doesn't work? But I don't think it's going to stop the STGs and the Allotatus of the world and these other brands from trying to move in this direction. I don't think it's going to stop it. I think this should just test. This is like, we've got to kind of work to figure this thing out and how we're going to make it meaningful for the cigar industry and the consumer as a whole. But I'm telling you right now, if STG does it, if they can make it work, there's going to be so many more of these. You know how it is. If it's successful, you want to replicate that success. You're just going to keep buying brands. And by the way, you've now got the attention of all these boutique brands who have struggled to build their businesses over a period of time with damning fucking regulations and this and that and everything being thrown in their fucking faces and having to navigate COVID and factories fucking shutting down for this or don't have access to this tobacco anymore. All these things, all these challenges and these hurdles that are thrown at them. Here's a pathway to get those fucking hurdles out of your way and make little fucking money while you do it.
Yeah.
It could be a really, really big thing going forward.
Yeah. What do you think their first cigar under that will be called?
under Room 101 and STG?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have an idea.
Yeah, I already knew you had something. It's like getting ready to tell a joke. You're setting someone up for a joke. It's like, I knew you were setting me up. I'm not a stupid moron. Just saying.
Well, it's a controversial thing, right? This
Yeah.
idea that Room 101 is moved on. It's like, it's either
don't think Matt's not going to come out with a cigar that is somehow intertwined into this whole thing.
Yeah. So it's like, it's either going to do really well or it's going to be crickets. So I thought, well, if you called it vacancy.
Oh, that's actually not bad. That's actually not bad.
Yeah, that's a freebie, Matt.
Yeah, I like that actually. Vacancy is a cool name. Well, don't give that to him. I want to come out with a cigar called Vacancy. There's obviously going to be more. And again, all this is like suspect hypothetical things. And there's more to break down. But we've definitely eclipsed our time. It'd be really exciting to have Matt on next week to get into the particulars, get into the details. What's the plan? And there's probably not a whole lot. I think a lot of times, like, people suspect that, okay, this thing happened now. Okay, here's how we're moving forward. I guarantee they are in a very first stage process of planning how they want this thing to work. It's not been planned out. I fucking know it hasn't. I've been a part of acquisitions and I know how messy they can be. And you think everybody's got their shit together and they don't. They're probably going to just start now figuring it out. How is this really going to work? What kind of symbiotic relationship can we build together? Again, how do we make sure that we put the attention and focus on the consumer, but how do we utilize the resources we have available? There's going to be all these things going to be fleshed out over a period of time. So I don't suspect we're going to get answers for everything, but like this episode, we'll probably get some hypotheticals, or we'll get Matt's ideas as far as like, this is what the Room 101 brand is going to be over a period of time. I'm sure he has that vision still in his head. So be interesting to talk to him.
Agreed.
All right, let's wrap it up. That was a fun episode. It's good to be back, despite Chris being sick, which is why we're remote and doing this over Zoom. It's not preferable, but it is what it is.
Did you want any driftwood, bro?
No.
You don't want me to make you a nice artistic piece?
Nope. Couldn't be less interested in driftwood. I'm sure Dad would take some.
I already gave him one. Do you, you sure you don't want something? Because you got that rustic vibe in some of your places of your home.
No, I don't want any driftwood.
Got great ideas.
Yeah, do you? Well, then you can talk to Lauren about it, because I don't want driftwood. Don't want driftwood.
Okay.
Don't have enough stuff. I don't want any driftwood.
I can make a really nice light out of them with some addressable LEDs in it.
I'm sure you can. It'll take you 6.5 years to make it for me. So
yeah, it's a lot of trial and error and a lot of discipline.
Yeah, I know.
Lack of discipline.
You're like, oh, I'm going to make arts and crafts with driftwood. I'm like, can't wait to see your first piece in 7 years. You know I'm right.
Yeah. But I'm using your criticism as
fuel.
Power.
Right. We'll see.
I'm using it as fuel.
But you know what's weird
to prove them wrong.
What's weird is this would be the first time you use my criticism for that.
That's true. Yeah, usually it's just like, eh.
Yeah, so I'd never really take anything you say seriously. And you're like, oh, I'm fucking driftwood artist now. You're like, okay.
What if I made
it's on to the next thing?
What if I made a piece of driftwood for you that holds your weapons?
If you could have one that's a Glock holster, that'd be dope.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, we'll see. So you know what you have to do that, right? You'll need a mold of a Glock. Where are you going to get that? You can buy them. Got to get them at a gun show. You can get a mold of a Glock. So you'd have to have that because that's what they use to make holsters. So you have to find the mold. And then you literally have to carve out perfectly that mold. Yeah. Have fun.
Yeah, it seems like a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Anyway, why are we talking about this? All right. It was good to be back.
Yeah.
Chatting with you, bro. This will conclude episode 244. We'll be back to you guys next week with Matt Booth himself for episode 245. See you, everyone.